hello. It's a while, eh? It's a while since I've done this stream. Well, not a while really, just a couple of days, right? But here I am. Sean is my name if you haven't seen me before. And this is the Qualped live streaming show. And we took a break. I'll tell you why we took a break. We took a break from Monday. Actually, was it Monday? Sometime last week, maybe Thursday or Wednesday last week. For a few days we've been off. And the reason is, I'll tell you, my grandmother, granny, she was just like a couple weeks away, 3-4 weeks away from her 99th birthday. And she died, she passed away a few days ago. Her funeral was yesterday. And so I didn't, this was in Guyana in South America, and I didn't go to the funeral because of COVID and traveling and all the, complications. But her funeral was yesterday and we were online checking it out, and I was kind of honoring her. I guess her life, her contribution to my life has been amazing, really tremendous, especially with my values and my spirituality, and a lot of who I am came from my grandmother, right? For all the years that she played an impact in my life. Let me see if yes, the sound is okay. Okay, so we're going to carry on with the show. So I just want to say that the reason I haven't been on is because my granny passed away, and I spent some time, going through, the grieving mourning. I didn't really mourn and grieve because she lived a full life, right? She was turning 99 just a few weeks away. Her birthday is January. But she lived a full life, seen 7 generations, which is amazing. And the thing that amazed me about her is, for all her life, so you're looking at nearly 99 years, she's lived at one place her entire life, and that astonishes me. The rootedness of it, the groundedness of it, her pure community spirit. She was the oldest person in her community when she died. My granny, yeah, she was amazing. So I had to take a few days off to just digest this new world consciously. Sometimes we walk around and people in our lives, right, and we think, at the back of your mind, you know that person is there. They're on the earth. They're alive. They're reachable. But suddenly you wake up and they're not. Like my parents passed away as well. After a while, you realize that these people are not around anymore. They're not on the earth anymore. They're in the earth. They're buried in the earth. And so you take a few days and kind of deal with it and come to terms with it and get closure. And honor them and also have some peace, right? Some peace of mind, peace of heart. So I stayed out of the public domain for a while. I didn't do the live streaming which I apologize for, because I know I made a commitment to you, whoever is my die-hard fan. I know I don't have die-hard fans, but if you watch the show regularly, or even every time we do it, which is daily actually, I apologize for staying away a few days. But here we are back again. The Christmas season is on. And of course, I don't know if it feels like Christmas to you. To me, it feels like, it's more like, because COVID is coming back again, the Omicron virus, and just like in 2021 and now it's 2021, sorry, back in 2022, what am I saying? I'm confused. Back in 2020, this is 2021, so back in 2020, we faced the same thing at Christmas time. We were kind of in a doldrum, for the first time at Christmas time in our generation. Society was shut down, right, last year, and now it's happening again. And so it's kind of, I guess, not a bubbly, enthusiastic Christmas as it usually is, maybe. But be that as it may, we're here to design our lives, and we're here to alter our future, and we're here to move on. Whatever is going on in the world, whatever the circumstances are, we're here to be there for each other, to be a community, and to hold up each other, encourage each other. And so at this Christmas season, here in Ontario it's cold, of course, it's snowy most days, and it's beautiful at night with the lights and all those things. But people got to stay home, and not much shopping is going on, and it's life what it is. But we got to move on. We got to prepare for the future, and that's what we're going to talk about. Remember, all this month, if you were with us last week, all this month we're dealing with the future, 2022 and beyond. Between 2022 and 2025, we're in for some how do I put this nicely, delicately? We're in for some interesting times, because society is moving away from the old industrial age, the age of post World War II, when capitalism, materialism, and corporate consumerism drove human behavior, social behavior. What we're finding, the fundamental change that is going on, is that there's a change of human behavior through these shutdowns and lockdowns and emergency powers that the government is implementing to deal with the pandemic, right? So we are seeing a tremendous change of human behavior. That's an important thing. We want to talk about that. But today, I want to focus this show on. Here's the thing. We have a few more days for Christmas and then one more week for the end of the year, right? And at the start of 2022, COVID or no COVID, despite what's going on in the world, we have life, right? At the end of the day, we have life. And we want to make the most of life. And today I want to talk about a specific thing. This morning I was doing some reading and thinking, and I thought, I'm going to get back on the life from today. And I thought, I want to really speak to people about how we can move, despite what's going on in the world, right? Even if we get sick with COVID, or people around us are sick, or society shut down, whatever is going on in the world, even the economic system, whatever it is, we want to prepare. Because remember, if you watched the show before, you would know that preparation is a huge thing. 99% of what we talk about is preparation. And then 1% of our life is performance. We go out into the world and we perform, having prepared, much like an actor in a movie. You run scripts, you rehearse, you prepare, you do everything you can to get into the role, and then you have those few lines or few minutes in the film, in the movie, where you perform, where the performance is what happens. And the performance, of course, will wow and mesmerize and inspire and motivate multitudes of people. But the performance is not what we want to focus on now. We want to focus on our preparation part. So for 2022, we know we are all going to set out to do some amazing things, right? If you're with us, if you're on board with us and aligned with us, we're going to do amazing things. And so there is something that I've been, how should I say, experiencing, maybe is the word, in my own journey as the 2021 comes to an end and as 2022 starts up, on the verge of coming into existence. And the way time is, right? 2022 never existed in history, right? It's the first time we're going to have the year 2022. I mean, the Chinese New Year and ancient New Years, we're not bothered with that. The calendar that we go with in Western civilization is the first time we're going to have a year like 2022, called 2022. So, of course, time is counting down, right? Interestingly, and this is an important point as well, time is counting down from the birth and death of Jesus Christ, right? Jesus Christ when he died, was year 0. So you have BC, which is before Christ was born, and then AD, which is the Latin phrase that means after death. Not that AD is after death, it's Anno Domini or something like that, which what it means is after the death of Christ. Is when civilization started, is when we started counting time. And so now we are going to be in the roughly 2,200 years since the birth and death of Jesus Christ. So that's how time is counting down, and we never had this time before. So as we prepare for 2022, I want us to, first of all, recognize the momentousness of the times. As we said the last time I had the show, you can see that video back on YouTube or Facebook, our page on Qualped or the Future Stars Life Media. Future Stars Media Enterprise, Facebook page. You can see the video there. But what we talked about in the last video was, I lost my train of thought. Whatever we talked about, check out that video. It's important, right? What we want to talk about today is, I've been going through this experience of first of all, setting some goals. So the vision of the company, of course, has goals, right? And we line up those goals to the vision. And then to achieve the goals, we talked not last show, but even earlier show in the week. You can check that too on YouTube and Facebook page. we talked about your life plan and how your life plan includes your vision, your life vision, your purpose, why you exist on the face of the earth, right? Your passion, what are you contributing to humanity? And then once you have your vision, you develop goals, because these are things you aim to achieve, your impact, your result, right? And once you have your results, then of course you need a methodology. How do you go about achieving your methodology, your goals? What methods you're using, or your action plan to achieve your goals? And so for me, the vision, of course, that I go with is the vision of Qualped, the vision of the Qualped life, what the Qualped life is all about, and our corporation, and why we do what we do, and why we exist, why the show is there. We have an overall vision, which I will get into now. But that vision has some goals attached to it. And of course, we have our own life plan and business plan and all that. And so 2022, we have some goals we want to achieve. And because of the experience I've been going through and trying to do this thing, I thought it's a good topic to talk to people about. And those of us who are listening to the show right now, or would listen to it in the future if you're listening to the recording of it, I'm going to share my experience from a perspective of it's a human thing to walk this journey that I'm walking as 2021 comes to an end and as 2022 starts up, right? So what's been going on is our goals for Qualped Life, for our company, is monumental, right? It's really big. It's not small. But so I've been brainstorming what's the methodology and goal of what's the methods, the action plan to achieve these goals. And of course we have that, but how do you make it happen? So here's what I'm going to talk about today. Excuse me. How do you scale from a place of, and let's go back, let's say life is not, the company and everything is not at a certain level. Let's go to the people who are really setting out from starting point, right? Let's say you're in a place of suffering, of struggling, and of barely surviving, right? You're barely surviving, you're struggling, you're suffering, things are not looking good. Here's the big question. How do you scale? How do you scale up from a place of struggle, of suffering, of really just barely, your head is just above the water, you're barely surviving? How do you move from that point, which is a state of being in life, right, to a point where you're scaling up the summit to your mountain? How do we do that? How do we move from let me repeat that. How do we move from a point of struggling, of just surviving, of suffering even, which is at the base of the mountain, it's in a valley that's in a dark place, and you want to go up the mountain to the summit of the mountain, the top of the mountain, the apex of your life? How do we make that journey happen? What is the methodology that we use to make that journey happen? Do we move from point A, which is at the ground here where everything is, it looks really challenging, to up there where we're living our dreams, right? This is what we want to talk about today. And let me lay out 3 points that I believe that I'm implementing in my own business here. Well, this is not my business, more like my life. My business is my vision and it's my life and everything, right? I live this. And so so I set myself a goal, right? If you've been watching the show recently, you know that my goals are huge and humongous. We have 3 divisions to the company. One is media, one is publishing, and one is technology. So our technology, of course, we want to scale it globally. And of course, the world is rushing ahead of us, so we need to get it on the metaverse and cryptocurrency and NFT and all that. That is one part we're doing, which is our social club, Qualped Social Club. And then we have this live streaming show, which we're planning to expand within the first quarter of next year, starting January, into a 24/7 operation. So 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, including news and all that, based on the four W's that our magazine, The Millionaire Mindset, is founded on. Those pillars, right? Wealth, wellness, worthiness, and wisdom. Wealth, wellness, worthiness, and wisdom. Yes, those 4. So we're going to live stream all that on this show. Not a show, but this operation. Future Stars Media Enterprise, 24/7. And then, of course, the third part of the company is our publishing division, which our aim, of course, is to dominate the interactive ebook space online. And so those are humongous goals. You set those goals and you sit back and you think, we don't have the team for it, we don't have enough money for it, we don't have enough technology for it. We're in a little city in Ontario which is not known for innovation and pushing small companies to become global companies. So how do we overcome these challenges? And that's what I've been going through, and that's what I want to deal with today in a well, it's not a dialogue, it's more of a monologue, in a conversation, I guess, with you, whoever is listening, right? How do I deal with these challenges? So remember, this is what we're doing. We set enormous goals, huge goals, nearly impossible goals. One is develop a global new media platform of live streaming quality shows, professional shows, right? For that we have like 5 or 6 cameras now. We gotta double that. All our lights, we gotta double everything that we have in the studio, or triple everything that we have. So it's a tremendous amount of work. Plus get the technical skills to handle all that we're doing, and of course subscribe to all the software and utilities and everything. So it's a mammoth task. And then on top of that, we're not satisfied only with doing one part of the business. We have our social club that we want to ramp up and have a metaverse for it, and have cryptocurrency and have NFTs for our book covers. And of course, we have our book publishing thing, which we want to really ramp up, get an ebook out at least once a week, possibly 3-4 ebooks per week published on our e-commerce platform. All those things we plan. So once those goals, you listen to those goals and you think those things are impossible. They're a big dream, which it is, which I love. That's why I wake up in the morning, right? You have this big dream and building something, and my offspring, my son, my grandchildren, everybody they must look back on my life and say, this guy did something with his life, or he failed. But I'm not going to sit back and not do it. I'm going to dream big and try and aim and go, like the great Gatsby, like Jay Gatsby, right? Or all these guys who set out to do big things, people like Elon Musk. They come up with a vision of the future and they make it happen. But how do they make it happen? How would Elon Musk go to Mars? How would Elon Musk develop the Neuralink technology? How would Elon Musk populate the roads of the world with electric cars and charging stations? How did Google, Brennan Page, who founded Google, what methodology, what mindset they use to dominate the world so that Google has become, Alphabet, the bigger company, the company that owns all the world's knowledge? How did Microsoft dominate the personal computer space? How did Apple come about from Steve Jobs' vision and Steve Wozniak sitting in a garage thinking we can build some fantastic technology that can change human nature, to what they're doing today? iPhone and all the fancy gadgets that they have that aid us so much in communication and entertainment and the life that we live, education too. How did these guys dream of such a world, such a future? How they jumped from that dream to the achievement? That's what we face today. I'm experiencing that, truly. And it's a beautiful journey, I can tell you. I love it, right? I love it. It's not necessarily partying in a crowd. That's not happening. There's no crowd who would align with this kind of thing. You got to find and select gifted souls literally selected by the divine order of life to be part of this. And so not everybody would jump on board, not everybody would even listen to this kind of thing or understand what we're doing, right? A lot of people criticize it and say, how dare you do that, just live your life and forget everything else. Well, I'm not like that, right? But the question we want to deal with today is, let's say you're in a situation where you only have a dream in your mind, in your head, only your imagination is working, right? That's the only thing that's going on. Even so, let's say we were in a situation of absolute struggle, of bare survival, of you're suffering every day and thinking, I have this dream in my head, like kids, like children, they have a wonderful dream and they say, one day I'm going to achieve this thing when I grow up. Or when they grow up, of course, they lose it because us adults tell them, you can't live your dream. Go get a job and pay your bills. And the world beats up on them like that, the old world. The world is changing and we're coming into a new world. But my question today to us, and this is a work I did myself. So I went into something. There is something in life called, to use a big word for it, a big phrase, and there's a reason I use a big phrase. It's called intellectual effort. The reason I could say make an effort or brainstorm or something like that, but I don't want to use a cliche. I want to use a word that wakes us up, that shocks us, that says, what is that? Intellectual effort. We have to introspect. We have to, when we face our life, or we say 2022 is coming, the future is coming, how do I want to approach that? How do I want to enter that world of 2022, which has never before appeared on the face of the earth in the history of man? But I'm going to live it. I'm going to be there by God's grace and walk through 2022. And how am I going to shape and make 2022, not only for myself, but the people in my life, in my community, and possibly the world through the internet, because it's now a global platform? How do I make an impact? How do I bring about some results that are beautiful and interesting and beneficial to the human psyche and the human consciousness? And those are my thing. That's where my mind is. That's how it works. That's because of the reading and all that. And I know there are a lot of people like that out there, not like the average person, but yes, there are people out there like that. And one of the necessary steps is to exercise something called intellectual effort, which simply means that you go into yourself, you introspect, and you think things through. You count the cost, and you know what you're getting into. Those things are important. We can't just dream up and have big goals. We must count the cost, which is a kind of a cliche coming out of the Bible. But to say exercising intellectual effort, I think has more impact, more awakening vibrancy than just to say count the cost or think things through. Because that's what people say, right? Think it through or count your cost, and then it becomes a cliche and we don't listen to it. But if we use a word like intellectual effort, which is what it is, at the end of the day, when you think things through or you count your cost, what you're doing is exercising intellectual effort. You're actually putting your mind to work and going inside yourself and find what's there. Am I good enough for these goals? Am I good enough? Do I have enough courage and strength? Do I have what it takes to achieve something as big as this that I set out for? So my thinking on that, of course, is that once you dream it, once you imagine it, it's possible, right? The mere fact that it comes to your mind and it excites you means that it's possible. That it's not just a dream, that you can make it happen. But what I want to talk about today is how there are three important signposts. Remember we dealt with before, those of you who watched the show a lot before, we dealt with signposts and guide lights, kind of. These words that guide us along the path to our designed life, to go up the mountain to the summit of our life. And today we're going to look at three words. You can't, once you would have done an intellectual effort, once you would have thought it through and count your cost, and know what you're willing and able and courageous enough to put into this thing that you dream is possible and you're going to go out and make it happen. Once you decide that is so in your mind, so the belief system is there, your imagination is activated, your passion is activated, you're excited, you're there, you're not approaching life halfway. No, we're approaching life with tremendous energy because we did the intellectual effort. We went inside to ourselves and we say, you know what? I dreamed this world could be like this. I could put that extra effort out there and paint that wall or put on that signpost or whatever. What I'm trying to say is that you change the landscape of the world even by a little, even by a blog or a poem or a song or whatever it is, or a book or your contribution to your society, whatever it is. However we make that contribution, that we have done the work, the intellectual effort to know that we can possibly make that intellectual effort. What does it take to move from that point? Once we would have, so you're, say life is a place of struggle right now. It's a place of bare surviving, right? You're barely surviving. Or it's a place of suffering even, that your health, whether people in your life, whether depression, whatever financial situation, whatever it is, that you're in a place of suffering. How do you move from that to this imagination that you have, if you do have an imagination, which is a vision and a purpose and you imagine a better world, if you can imagine a better world, how do you move from where you are to that place where you can make happen, bring into reality, manifest, bring into manifestation that world that you imagine, the solution that you want to bring to solve some kind of problem. First, you do the intellectual effort. You count the cost, you think it through, to use those two cliches, but I hope intellectual effort really, it doesn't scare you, but it wakes you up, because it's not a big word. It just means think things through, or count the cost. Once you would have done that work, which is an internal work, you sit somewhere that is conducive to quiet reflection, and you go inside of you and say, I'm a human being. What is possible? This is the 21st century. There is the internet on my finger, at my fingertips. There's so much power, so much knowledge, so much creativity. Facebook is now launching a creative portal, creative domain. I can get on that. I can do a YouTube channel. I can do so much. So I'm going to go inside myself and find out what I can do in this world, instead of just barely survive, or go through sufferings, or struggle. I'm going to go inside myself and find something in there, some seed, some spark, some ignite, and move and try to do something. What next? What do you do next? There are three things it takes to scale our lives, to move from suffering and survival. Some people might not be suffering, but they're in survival mode, or they're just struggling, right? You might not be barely surviving, or you might not be suffering, but you're struggling mentally or emotionally or romantically or financially, or however it is. Some people just struggle in life. How do we move from there to scale to a point where we are heading to the summit of the mountain? And there's a reason I chose all those S in it: struggle and suffering and survival and scaling and summit, because it's a literary device called alliteration. And of course, in using literary devices, we create an atmosphere, a literary atmosphere, where memory, you'll remember what I say, right? It comes across. It's like writing a novel or writing a short story or something. That's how I do my show here. I don't just, I think about it, right? I put in that intellectual effort. I count the cost and think it through. But I don't do notes. I'm authentic and real. I just say what I want to say, but I know the points I'm going to say most times. Sometimes not, but most times I do. At least the general idea. But anyway, I just wanted to say I structured it with all the S sound in it, so the alliteration would bring a kind of how should I say, literary aesthetic to the show. I don't know if it works. Tell me if it works. Anyway, there are three things it takes to scale from that place of struggling, survival, and suffering, if they're suffering, to scale up to the summit. The three things are these. I'm going to go through them one by one. The first one is, before I go into the last two, let me deal with the first one. The first one is, there's a concept in physics. There's a concept in physics which I'm sure you would have heard of or did in school, called inertia. Inertia is energy, right? It's power, it's force that is within an object that is can't move itself. It's sitting stationary, like the chair, for example, has inertia in it. In other words, it has a kind of energy in it, a kind of force in it, but it won't move unless an external force moves it, right? That inner power within an object, let's call it latent energy. So within every object that is in a state of inertia, which means it's not moving, or it's moving just in a straight line or something. It doesn't move itself. It's in a state of inertia. It sits there. Within that object, it's not an emptiness, but it's a kind of force, a kind of energy called latent energy, right? Bear with me. That's physics, right? In physics, there's such a concept: latent energy and inertia. Inertia is a force that is dormant, and in latent energy is that force. It's latent, it's there, sitting, it's waiting, but this thing is in a state of inertia, dormancy, right? It's there, but the energy can't do anything. Now, I want to take that concept out of physics, which other people have done. Doesn't come from me, it came from life coaches before that I came across. I can't remember who or where I read it, in a book or listened to a talk or whatever it is, but I got it from somewhere. We in our life, there are certain things within us that we take so much for granted. Things in our lives, including people, including relationships, friends, family, associates, business associates, friends, who are in our life and they're in a state of inertia. They're just dormant. We don't know how to activate their innate power that they could contribute to us. You see what I mean? Their latent energy is not something that we tap into. We don't exercise force to move that object or that latent energy within, say, our relationships or things in our lives, or even our assets that we have, or even our liabilities. We could be in debt, and it could be latent energy sitting there that we could convert from a state of inertia into a state of movement. I need to find a metaphor to really get this thought over, but I think you get what I'm saying. That basically we have within us some sleeping energy, dormant energy, or around us, and we don't see it. We see it as inertia, we see it as dormant, we see it as useless. We can't touch it, we can't do anything with it. But in that thing is a latent energy that we are not conscious of, or we disregard, or we say there's no way, we don't know how to make it activated, how to activate that force, that power. So it's latent energy that is sitting there in an object or a thought. It could be an idea, it could be our culture, it could be anything in our life, could be powerful, but we don't know it's powerful because it's in a state of inertia. But within that thing, whatever it is, people, things, ideas, concepts, whatever it is, education, non-education, whatever it is, there is a latent energy. What we want to talk about today is how do we move from that place of the dormancy, which is a state of being stuck, actually. So you're stuck. How do you move from there? How do you scale from there so that you're moving up to the summit of your mountain? There are three things we need to get today. One is that there's latent energy and some dormant stuff in our life. We need to get that. There's some latent energy, powerful energy, resident inside several things in our lives that are dormant and we take for granted and we think they're useless. We think there's no power there. We want to deal with that. But how do we deal with that? So what we're talking about today, just as a reminder, is let's say 2022 is coming around. 2021 has been what it has been because of COVID and coming out of 2020. But 2022 is coming. We've learned to deal with COVID. We've learned to psychologically tune ourselves to that environment. We've learned to maintain ourselves healthily, even mental health, in a state of mass behavior changes going on in society. But some of us are facing 2022 with a mindset that is in a state, whether it's physical or going on in your world or not, it could even be a mindset of suffering, struggling, and barely surviving. How do we move from there to when we enter 2022, we're scaling up? That's what we're talking about. And the first thing we said is there is some energy in our lives that we don't consider as power, as energy, as latent energy, because we see that wherever that latent energy is, it's in a state of dormancy, it's in a state of inertia. So we don't consider it, we bypass it. We might see it every day and don't even see it. We're not conscious of these things, we're not awoken to these things. So we want to talk, that's one point. So we need to consider that after having done intellectual effort or counting the costs or thinking things through and knowing what we want out of life and where we want to go in 2022, once we would have done that exercise, even making notes on it. But it's a very simple thing, just think about your life and decide where do I want to go. That's what That's what intellectual effort is. Once we would have decided that, then what we do is exercise resourcefulness. Now, there's no person on the face of the earth, write this word down, resourcefulness, resourcefulness. There's no person on the face of this earth who achieve any success, whether a mom or a dad with kids, whether children, whether people who go to college, whether graduating from high school, whether you become a multi-millionaire, whether the billionaires, whoever it is, nobody achieve any success in life without resourcefulness. You gotta be resourceful. What do I mean when I say resourceful? You want to achieve your dreams, right? But you're in a state of lack. I don't have money, I don't have the right kind of people around me, I'm not from the right family, I'm not like big bodybuilder, I'm not a movie star, I'm not a big author, all those things. We can come up with a million excuses. The things that we lack. If we exercise, first of all, develop the skill of being resourceful, and we exercise resourcefulness, we can find whatever we need to fill the lack, the gap that is receding. We'll get into this more. Bear in mind that the number one thing we need in life to be successful, to tackle 2022 and to make it through 2022 is resourcefulness. Make a note of that. We've got to be resourceful. We've got to find out how to be resourceful. We've got to develop skills of resourcefulness. The second thing we need, once we have resourcefulness, which means the ability, resourcefulness is the ability to go out and get what we lack. Get it? Resourcefulness is to go out into the world, or from our space, or even in our space, and get the tools, the technology, the teachings, the money, the team, whatever it is that we lack. Resourcefulness is how do you gather in things that you don't have. That's what resourcefulness is, a key, crucial skill. You can't start a business without capital. You can't run a successful company without a good team. How do you gather those things in? Those are the resourcefulness is how you do it. This is number one. Once you would have exercised resourcefulness, and you know that we have these tools, now that we brought them in, team, capital, whatever it is, could be a laptop, could be anything. We have the resourcefulness to bring in the resources. What do we do then? The second thing we need to do, so remember resourcefulness. You can't be successful if you're not resourceful. The second thing you need to be is be conscious of a word I love, which is leverage. Leverage. Now we're going to tie leverage back to what we talk about inertia and latent energy. Leverage is you know what leverage is, of course you do, right? Leverage is, there's a heavy object there, like those big rocks that they built the Egyptian pyramids with. I talked about this in a show before. Leverage is, they take a small tool like a piece of wood or something and leverage that big rock, right? You might shift it till you get it into position where it needs to be. You can't move the rock, you can't move this heavy object, but you can take a little tool and pry it forward or twist it. You can move it with a small lever. You use the lever to leverage a force that is much greater than the lever that you're using, or than you. So you using the lever leverage a great force. You get this? It's how people move big objects, usually. Even with machinery, what they do is there's this lever that would grab the big machinery, whatever it is, and leverage it away, right? So we want these concepts to, we want to juxtaposition these three concepts in our minds, right? So leverage, resourcefulness, and inertia or dormancy of latent energy. Let's take those three concepts and put them together. Let's go back to the person who is, let's say we ending 2021. What time is it? Oh, so yeah, we're gonna wrap up soon. So we're, let me see. I got a message about the, okay, good, thanks. Thanks, Mano, appreciate it. Actually, I was talking to my friend Mano, who's a shareholder in my company. He owns a restaurant up the road and I go there for lunch and stuff every so often, and he would fix a nice exciting drink and all that. So we were talking about this today, Mano and I. We were talking about leverage and all those things, and that's why it came to consciousness to do the show. And the things we are experiencing in the company, we want to kind of share, right, with you. Because I'm going to tie this back at the end with how it comes in. I'm experiencing these things right now. That's why I thought it would be fruitful to, because it's so fresh in me. It's an experience. It's not just come from head knowledge or book knowledge. This is what I'm experiencing in life, right? So let's tie in leverage, resourcefulness, and latent energy within some object in your life, or some concept, or some person, or some situation that is actually inertia, dormant, sitting there waiting, that you think is useless. Let's tie them together. Let's go back to the point where the worst points a human being could be in, right? Suffering, or struggling, or barely surviving. Let's go from there, from ground up, from hit rock bottom. From you hit rock bottom, how do you come back up? Using these three concepts: leverage, resourcefulness, and latent energy. Now, what a human being does, of course, we're built in such a way that struggle and survival and being on that hitting rock bottom is a scary thing. It plunges us into fear. It activates all the hormones of flight and fear and fight. It doesn't awaken us adrenaline. Well, it does adrenaline to fight or flight or even fear. What I mean, it doesn't awaken in us this excitement, passion. It doesn't give us an enthusiastic approach to life. Struggle, survival, suffering causes more depression than excitement, than enthusiastic tackling of life and say, I'm gonna deal with this. I'm good enough. We don't approach life like that when you're at rock bottom. So let's say 2021 is in whatever state you're in, you don't like it. You want to scale, right? The operative word here is scale. You want to scale in 2022. You want to go higher. You want to fly. You want to be an eagle. Despite COVID, you might be locked down in your house in January, but that doesn't stop us playing on the internet. It doesn't stop us building our metaphors. It doesn't stop us creating NFTs and learning cryptocurrency. It doesn't stop us doing any of that. So 2022 is an exciting year. We can do things despite the state of the global economy or global society. How do we do that? First, the thing we need to understand is that whatever state we're in, whether we're barely surviving, whether we're struggling, whether we're suffering, or whether we are paying our bills and living a nice, lavish life, and we're watching TV and we're enjoying the lockdown and we are having fun with everybody, whatever state we're in, there are certain things in our life that we must look through what's going on and see with different eyes, perceive with different eyes. And let me go back to the rock bottom people, because we got to care about people who are going through a hard time. The ones who are suffering and struggling and barely surviving, we might see struggling and suffering and barely surviving as negative, bad things. But I tell you what, those are forces in our lives, full, pregnant with latent energy. If you're suffering, or if you're struggling, or if you're barely surviving, in that situation is such an energy, such a latent force. It's dormant and it's in a state of inertia, simply because we don't see it. We don't take it into consideration. What we take into consideration is that, oh, I'm suffering. And all the connotation of suffering and survival and struggling shows up as negative things, as lack of energy, as lack of force, as lack. That we lack this, so we don't have resources. But if you are in a state of struggle, it's a time to grow, it's a time to learn, it's a time to self-develop, it's a time to face yourself and say, what is this all about? What is this life all about? What mistake am I making? To introspect and to go in other words, whatever situation you're in, don't let it be just a dormant thing. Don't let it be. Don't see it as useless. Don't see it as having an inability to contribute to your life. A lot of people have tremendous assets in their life. Every human being, actually. But we shelf them. We put them on shelves. We say that's not useful, or we're going to use it some other time, or put it back for later, or even some people in our life. Our parents, our siblings, our extended family, our friends, the society we live in, they're all in a state of inertia if we don't make full use of the force of that person in our life to move them, so that the latent energy in that relationship that you have with them, there's latent energy in relationships that we have with people, but sometimes that lapses into a kind of dormancy, and we see that person as this, my relative, my aunt, my uncle, my granny, whatever it is, and there's a latent energy because we put them in a box. That's how that person is, and they can't do anything more for me. But if we were to see them and see not only people, of course, in our lives, but things and situations. You might be on a bus traveling, or a train. In that train, there is, in other words, what I'm saying is, develop a habit of living life thinking, is that a dormant thing in my life showing up? Is there latent energy in that thing that is sitting there in a state of inertia? Can I apply some force to it and activate it? That's what resourcefulness is. We be resourceful if we look around us and see everything around us, and we say, you know what? I'm not going to take anything for granted. I would not think anything or anybody is useless. Now, some people might say, you look for opportunity in everything. You're selfish or you're opportunistic. Of course. That's what life is. You look to advance the self, not selfishly and with narcissistic, craziness, but sensibly, caringly, empathetically, right? With kindness. You reach out to people, and yes, you come first, but you come first so that you can do what you can for other people. And so we look in our life, all around us, everywhere around us. We open our eyes and we just become awake. And we say, what is there in my life that is just sitting there in a state of immersion, dormant, that and I take it for granted. And in my subconscious, I think it's useless. In every area, in every situation, every object, every person, apply some force to it. It might be force of testing them to see if they would move, to see if there is any energy there, any latent energy. But don't take anything for granted. Everything has latent energy, and you can convert that latent energy into some kind of positive generation in your life. It generates something positive in your life. Every person, every object, every situation, even a situation of suffering, struggling, and barely surviving. Those situations you can use as dynamic situations to say, I'm not going to be in this again. Let it motivate you, let it move you. That's what resourcefulness is. So resourcefulness is a necessary life skill to be successful in life. And what resourcefulness is in this context that we're talking about, it's looking all around you, and me too, in every single area, and say, how is there energy in this thing that is just a dormant force, as a friend or as a relative or or as a computer on a desk or whatever it is? How can I convert it to latent energy that is moving and powerful and contributes to my vision and where I want to go in 2022? And of course, once we would have turn that latent energy into resourcefulness, then we leverage it. We leverage it into what we want to achieve, which is gathering the resources that we need. What do we leverage? I mean, the biggest force in our lives is our lack, our want, the things we don't have. I want to do business in 2022, I don't have money. I want to go to school in 2022 and get a master's degree or a PhD. They close down all the schools. Whatever it is you imagine you want to do in 2022. I want to get a self-driving car. Whatever it is, I'm just coming up with examples. In 2022, you want to do these things. Apply resourcefulness. Look around in your world for every single thing and every single person and every single situation, and see what has latent energy that is sitting dormant in your life that you take it for granted and you think is useless. And put force to that thing. When I say force, I mean direction, right? I mean some kind of direction to that thing, some kind of focus, and activate its movement and let it contribute that latent energy into your life. And then leverage that to turn what you lack, what you don't have, that weight, that big, heavy, huge weight of not having this thing, leverage it so it moves, it comes into your life. I don't know how better to say it I could write it, I could, spend time. I should write these things at essays, and we'll do more and more of that. As we do the live, maybe pull out the, because it's an hour show, right? We'll pull out the transcript and convert it into a small ebook for every live we do. That's a good idea. And also take the audio part of the show, they call it the live show, and do an audio podcast as well. So all those things we need to do. We're getting staff in January, hopefully if the society opens up, and we'll get all those things done. So today we talked about, and I would urge you to go beyond my kind of touching the surface with these things, right? Go into looking into leverage, resourcefulness. You cannot be successful unless you're resourceful. And the best place to be resourceful is in your life. Look at the people in your life. Look at the situations in your life. Look at the things you have, or the things you don't, because you convert all that into latent energy, right? And then you leverage that into getting the stuff that you don't have, that you know you need. So let me tie that into my own experience. We have these big goals for 2022, and right away in 2022, we wanted to launch one of the world's biggest live streaming new media platform for news and entertainment, and also education, right? We want to do that with our media company. Of course, it's all online. When I say huge and global, I mean, if you do things online now, it's more doable than, say, setting up a huge media operation in old media. We're not doing that. This is new media, so it's all live streaming, all online, and we'll be getting the equipment to do it. So that's one of our goals. The second goal is our publishing company. We want to ramp up so that in 2022 we become one of the biggest interactive ebook companies in the world, right? So people go to our site to get their interactive ebooks, and we want to publish really exciting stories. And the third thing we want to do, of course, is in our technology to have the Qualpet Social Club, which is a club and a society of authors of the future who write Sims books. That this club should be in the metaverse, like Shiba, and we would have our cryptocurrency and all those things. Huge goals, NFTs and all that. Huge goals. And so I imagine these things, right? And I come to cost. I did the intellectual effort, and I thought they were doable. They're doable. Tremendous challenges. You got to raise the money for it, the financial capital. You got to raise the team for it, the technical capital, and you have to raise the support for it, the social capital. How do we do those things? And resourcefulness had to come into play. And so I'm going through, in these last 2 weeks of December, and even since October actually, I'm going through this whole process of exploring resourcefulness, to look even with the people in my life. I would call up people out of the blue and say to people, we're expanding, we're doing big things, you want to join us, you want to be on board? And of course, like Bill Gates said, right? He went to 300 people when he was starting Windows, and everybody said no until one guy said yes, and made him a millionaire. So most people would say no, and so I don't take it personally. Like if people don't see the vision, they wouldn't make an effort, right? People wouldn't make a sacrifice to do this the way you would make a sacrifice for your vision. And so I've been going through this massive goal setting thing of our company life plan, and for 2022 with these three things. And I got to get a team together. I got to get the support we need, the social support that we need from the community. I talk to politicians and stuff, and also of course the financial capital, because it's a big thing. You got to hire staff and all those things. And I had to dig deep inside of me to find out if I'm worthy of this, if I'm good enough, if I have the courage, I have the skill, if I have the leadership quality, and all those things. And I don't have any of those things. But I muster it within myself and say, because the dream is there, the vision is there, and if it's planted in my mind by this divine mandate, so to speak, then I must make it happen. And I have to gather in the skill, I have to gather in the capital, social, technical, and financial capital, and the team to make this thing happen. And so I've been exploring these three things for the past at least 2 months. Resourcefulness, and I look at everything in my life. All the people, I would even write names and say, what is this person's mindset? What are they capable of? And of course, most people wouldn't think that huge, right? Wouldn't even imagine it, because they're not as crazy as I am, right? But so I would write names and put their qualities, pros and cons, and say this person is not like this person is like this, and see if they line up with our vision. That kind of thing is resourcefulness. You're seeing what is dormant in your life. Also, I look at all this situation we're in, the kind of place we have, the studio that we're running, the vision that we have, including for Sims books and all that. I look at everything. Our magazine, Millionaire Mindset, everything. I call in some people, talk to them from churches and stuff to see how we can all work together. All these things we've been doing because I've been looking where there is that latent energy. That is, so I'm being resourceful in identifying where the latent energy is lying dormant and going through everywhere until I find it, and then leverage that into developing the kind of resources that we need to make these goals happen. Okay, so I hope this makes sense. I hope, like, in my head it's so clear, right? It's absolutely crystal clear in my head, but to speak it, I can write it, I think, better than I can speak it. But I hope, like, the ideas come across, at least the ideas, at least the concepts come across and make some sense. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Sorry I've been away for, what time is it? Yeah, it's time to wrap up. I've been away for a few days, remember, because my granny passed away at, just a couple of weeks away from 99 years old, and she lived at the same place for all those years. Man, it's incredible. So rooted and grounded. That's what I miss in life. I want to be, I'm a drifter kind of, especially mindset. I don't find a grounded place. Migrants, I guess, when you migrate from one country to the next, it's like that Neil Diamond song, I Am, that says, they're in one place. Well, he sings the song about him being in one place and longing for another place, Los Angeles and New York or something. But immigrants are like that. We're in one place and we long for the place that we came from. When we go back there, we realize we don't belong anymore and we want to come back where we migrated to. And so my granny was the opposite. She never left the place that she grew up in, and she lived there for 99 years, 2 weeks away from 99 years. Incredible. So that's why I was away for a few days. But now I'm back. As you see, I'm doing well. I need to fix my hair. It's not but next time. I got gray when I left, you see. But have fun. You have to have fun in life. Good to see you, but I didn't see you. I hope it's good for you to see me, actually. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, right? Yeah, tomorrow we have a show. So take care. Have a good night. Bye-bye.